Hello everybody, welcome back. I still haven't been able to do much work on the loft. We're still in lockdown here in Sydney for another couple of weeks at least. But one thing you might notice is that I've moved the water to the ground and their grit is gone. And that is because I'm currently treating the birds for coccidiosis. So I've moved the water down to the ground because the sunlight can actually damage the medication and stop it from working. And the grit's gone because our vitamin supplements can actually inhibit the coccidiosis medication from working. You might have noticed in some of the videos that some of the birds have had dirty tails, which can be a little bit of a symptom of coccidiosis. And because I haven't finished lining the roof, it has gotten a little bit damp in here recently, which can sort of exacerbate a coccidiosis infection. So I've been treating the birds. They've been treated with Emprolium, which is one of the common effective drugs that is used to treat coccidiosis. The other one is Baycox, which is actually a much better drug, but it is very, very expensive. It's about 10 times the price of Emprolium. So this time I just decided to go with a cheaper option. The Emprolium treatment takes about 5 to 7 days, so I think tomorrow is the last day of their treatment. But let's have a look at some of the pigeons. Unfortunately, these eggs are not fertile, but I am going to leave them here for two reasons. The first is that if I take the eggs away, they will probably just lay again, and I don't want to put that much stress on the hens laying eggs unnecessarily. And the other reason is that if all goes well, I might move the Barless Project eggs into this nest. That way they can be raised in the loft and I can remove the old boxes outside and finally start cleaning up my yard. A lot of people were worried about the eggs rolling away, but I'll just move him out of the way and show you. There's actually a little depression here, so the eggs are not going to roll away. So that's not something that we need to be worried about. It's just about time for their food, so they're all coming down expecting to be fed. But one of the pigeons who did have a bit of a dirty tail was this black cockbird at the back here. Before I feed them, I might pull him out and we'll have a closer look. So here he is, and if you've been watching the channel for a while, you might remember this guy. This one was a pigeon that I bred last year at my old house, and then I also had him in the breeding boxes here at the end of last year. This guy was actually also one of the babies in my baby pigeon growing up time-lapse video. So if you've seen that one, here he is now. He's actually grown into quite a big pigeon. I'm a little bit surprised at how big he actually got. Because he's so big, it's actually a little difficult to hold him with one hand. I would be interested to see how he goes if he was able to be a racing pigeon. Because going by his bloodline, he's actually bred for a bit of a longer distance, about 500-600 kilometers. So the longer end of middle distance. And usually in Australia, the pigeons who do that are a little smaller than they might be in Europe. But this guy is quite a chunky pigeon. But unfortunately, obviously because he's moved house a few times, I'm not going to be able to test his racing ability. But we have been able to test him in breeding. And believe it or not, this guy actually is the father of a winner. I'll put up the results on the screen here so you can see. But he did breed a club winner. It wasn't a fed winner, it was just a club winner. But I was really impressed with that, and he's going to get another chance this year when we start breeding. Obviously, when we get out of lockdown, I'll finish decking out the loft and putting in the breeding boxes and the perches, and then we'll breed from this guy again. He is actually part of my brown breeding project, and he does carry the brown colour gene. So some of his daughters should come out brown, which I'm really excited to see because I'd love to have some browns in the racing loft. Despite the size of him, he's actually fairly well balanced. I know some people prefer a one-tail feather rather than the little fantail that he's got going on. I don't really mind it that much. But next year when we're racing, I'm actually going to keep track of the different tail stances of all the race birds and compare it to their results. And at the end of the year, we'll have a little bit of data that we can actually analyse properly. Anyway, here he is. A nice big black pigeon. But I think it's time to feed the pigeons, so I'll put him back and we'll get some food out. So I'll start in here with the hens first. I have put a little bit of pellets in their mix because as soon as lockdown finishes, I'm aiming to be breeding these guys. And I do like to breed with pellets. So having the pellets in their mix just gets them used to eating them. Anyway, let's feed these guys. This blue checker hen here, she was such a good racing hen. It's a real shame that she has such trouble breeding. She's a really nice hen. And like I said, she was a really great race bird. And I'd really love to have some more of her children in the race team for next year. But given her reproductive problems, I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. I am going to pair her up again later in the year when it's a bit warmer, and hopefully she will be able to ovulate and at least produce some eggs. And I might even just have to run those eggs under a different pair. But she's such a nice pigeon, and I would really like to get some eggs out of her. These guys are getting jealous. It'll be your turn soon, don't worry, the food's coming. You can see they're not super hungry. I'm not... Because breeding is coming up, I'm trying to put a little bit of weight on them, especially the hens, because it does take a bit out of them producing eggs and then raising babies. Alright, I'll put the rest of their food in, then we can go and have a look at the cocks. Alright boys, here it is. You guys ready for lunch? Again, these guys aren't super hungry. I'm not keeping them on starvation, so they're not going to go as crazy for the food as they would if they were a bit more hungry. But I might just stand back and we can have a look at them. When I stand up here like this, you can see most of the boys. So, are there any of them that you haven't had a close look at that you'd like me to highlight in a future video? There are a lot of birds here that I don't sort of highlight super often. So if there are, let me know in the comments. I'll pull them out and have a closer look. And the same over here with the girls. Is there anyone you'd like a closer look at? I did promise I'll look at the brown grizzle, so I'll do her in a future video coming up soon. But if there's anybody else, let me know, and I'll pull them out, you can have a closer look. This tiger grizzle loves to claim ownership of the floor.